Thanks for tuning in to the second episode of Is God Real? I have Anthony Green here, and we're going to go ahead and just talk about his experience with if there is a God and what that looks like for him. Thanks. And Anthony, why don't you go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself?
Oh man, where to start? You want me to start from the beginning? You'd be like Chunk from Goonies. No, I don't know, man. I was adopted when I was young. My father and mom, I guess, were kind of in their own drug scene back in the day, so I ended up getting adopted by my aunt and my uncle when I was young. So with two of my sisters, I'm actually one of 12. But my aunt and my uncle ended up adopting me and two of my sisters. We lived in Portland most of my life. I grew up in the church. I was kind of forced in the church, I guess is how I kind of put it, because me and my two sisters, we went from the age of 3 until I was 18. But my parents didn't go. You know what I mean? So I fell in love with the church, though. You know what I mean? At a young age, I loved the atmosphere. I liked doing the softball games that we did, or the baseball games, or doing the, because we rode the church bus, so, doing the songs on the way to the church, or picking up the other kids and stuff, it's, I enjoyed it, and then once I kind of got older, I was pretty sheltered as a kid, so I didn't have like birthday parties, and I didn't go to friends' houses, and I worked, I didn't grow up watching cartoons. I grew up watching like TV Land and stuff, watching like, Bonanza and stuff. But I don't know, so I've always had kind of the work mentality. I was raised to, I was the boy in the family, so I've been raised to kind of work and always kind of just be on point, always having to like kind of prove myself, and be that person, I guess, and so I worked, for my whole life. So from when I was young, been in the church, and then I worked, I ended up getting expelled in 9th grade. It was over, a long story, but I ended up taking some pot to school. And
There you go.
Gave it to a buddy. Well, he wasn't really a buddy, but we'll put it that way. And anyways, he went and showed it off to everybody, and second period came around, cops came and security guard, and that was the end of my high school. And so anyways, I got expelled, and I didn't get accepted to my to continuation school until my half year into my sophomore year. And I was a straight A student when I was going to the main high school. And I was actually 2 weeks away from the end of my 9th grade year when I got expelled. The only credit I got was from my PE teacher, which was half a credit. So when I went to the other school, which is the continuation school for Centennial High School, I ended up picking up 3 internships, and I was doing college classes at my own community college. And I ended up getting accepted to Western Oregon University my junior year of high school, and I had 54 college credits when I graduated. And so I kind of, as a young kid, being kind of forced to kind of stay in the church and to work, I kind of had a pretty good work ethic. I kind of was good at school. I didn't really get in too much trouble. I was pretty good when I was young, but once I graduated is kind of when a lot of kids, like nowadays, or throughout the years that I've seen, is that, the stricter you are with your kids, it's good to an extent, but you have to have that leeway. And I didn't have that leeway, and so I kind of rebelled. So I was a head cook in the San Juan Islands right out of high school on Jones Island out of Puget Sound in Washington. I don't know if you guys know where the San Juan is, but so I went and did that, and then I went to college 2 weeks right after that job. And then I played rugby for Western Oregon, and also I worked 2 jobs and took 17 credits a semester. Oregon works a little different than California with trimester semesters and stuff. Their credits is a lot different than what it is down here. You know what I mean? So you only get like 1 to maybe 2 credits up there per class. When down here you get like 3, 4 credits per class. You know what I mean? But so when I say I'm taking 70 credits, it was a lot. Yeah.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So, but playing rugby back then, though, that's what kind of introduced me to like the party scene. You know, it's after every rugby game was a social, which socials you drink and party with the other team that you either beat up and won against or you lost against, or vice versa. You know what I mean? Whether it's home or away, we always had a social. So I kind of really got into drinking then. And I never drank before that. I never did anything. I never, you know, I wasn't in that. I wasn't into that. I was into working and trying to stay, you know, the path. But, you know, I was a double major, single minor. I was an architect, engineer major, criminal justice major with a math minor. And so I was, you know, in college too, 4.0. Worked at Little Caesars, and then I worked at the Wolf Grill, which is the main kitchen for the college. And I did the catering for the college as well. As I played rugby and did all my classes, but I ended up getting hurt in rugby. And I don't know, after that is kind of when I kind of started going downhill a little bit. I stayed out of the church. As soon as I turned 18, I kind of went on my own way, you know, went to college and did my summer job. I went out of the church. I didn't go to church for, and I don't know, probably when I met my wife again in 2022. I met her in February, so it's probably the first time I went back to church was when I met her. You know, and I ended up getting into drugs and stuff a little bit, you know, after college, and I ended up I had a full year paid for the scholarship that I had for academics rather than so many credits of college credits when I graduated high school. But I ended up getting into drugs after that year because I knew I wasn't going to be able to afford any more schooling. So, and my parents, they made too much money. They didn't want to help me out, and I didn't want to take a bunch of student loans and stuff. So I ended up actually coming to California, and I started growing pot for my family. And I ended up getting robbed that year and stuff, and then not getting paid for all the work that I did that year. And I ended up getting into drugs. It kind of put me in a way that I was just kind of pissed off at certain things not working out. And I met some people that when I was in the backcountry growing and stuff. And yeah, so I ended up getting into meth. I ended up moving back up to Portland. I had a decent job, but ran into the wrong person that worked there and got back into doing meth and pills and everything you think of, Molly, ecstasy, DMT, salvia, everything.
A little bit of everything. If you can get your hands on it, you played with it.
Yeah, so I actually, it's kind of a crazy story, I guess. One of the guys that I was doing drugs with, he ended up having some family in Chico, and he wanted to ride down. So I was like, oh, I got family in Redding. I'll drop you off and go visit people in Redding while you're whatever. So, well, I ended up leaving him in Chico, and I moved back to Redding.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, hey, I'm just going to, well, I ended up getting a spot at my grandma's house, and I got sober, and I ended up getting a job opportunity working at the mill. My sister is married to this man that his dad owned the mill up in Crescent City. And so I ended up moving up there. I didn't know nothing about Crescent City. You know, I went straight back home, you know, to the house I was renting, and that's all I did. Well, he ended up talking me into going out to this little brewery one night with him and his wife, and I didn't want to go, and he ended up showing back up at the mill because I ended up actually becoming a security at the mill and staying in a big trailer and stuff at the mill also. So he ended up all of a sudden I hear honking. he's at the gate. Well, anyways, that's how I ended up meeting my wife that night. That's how I met my wife, was at the bar that night. And we were together ever since, well, for the last 13 years, and we just kind of going through our divorce. But
well, I want to stop you there for just a quick second, if I may.
yeah.
Because you gave us so much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I heard a ton of things.
Yeah.
One is you were adopted, right?
Yep.
Big deal. One of 12 kids. That's crazy, you know. And then also you said that you, from the age of, I think you said 4 to 18, you were forced to kind of go to church.
3.
What? 3?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, was there a sect or a denomination, or what faith was?
I was Christian.
Okay.
I was raised as Christian. We read out of the New King James Version.
Okay.
You know, I went to a big church, actually. I went to, it's a televised church out of Portland. It's a family worship center.
Okay.
It's still a big church. It's off of it's between 172nd and 181st and Powell.
Okay.
Is where it's at. It's still, it's
So they're
big church.
online
Yeah,
and streaming and everything.
Yeah,
Ah.
they're on TV and everything. Like if you have like that public broadcasting channels.
Yeah.
Like there'll be one of the channels that come up. It'd be Family Worship Center. That was the church I grew up going to.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So now, were they a little bit more on the conservative side, or would you say, you know, not necessarily as bad as you've heard, or?
Yeah, I liked it. It's kind of hard to really go back, you know, from when I was a kid to what I know from church now, from like how they were, like, say, bringing up the money and how much you need to donate or this or that. I don't remember any of that back then.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I played in the youth choir, I played the drums, I played guitar. You know, I led services for youth, you know, and I did led Bible studies. I've done, I did school, man, Sunday school. I did years Sunday school. You know what I mean? We'd have to every week we'd have to remember certain verses and stuff. And
So you were like very actively involved.
I read the Bible all the way through.
Okay.
Yeah, so I know the
Maybe
Bible.
multiple times.
Yeah,
Even.
Yeah, I have. Me and my grandma, actually, she's like my second mom. She grew up with me. Like she lived with me my whole life with my adopted parents, my aunt and uncle. But she was like my second mom. But she would write the Bible. She would read the Bible, but she'd write it down. And if she would mess up, she would start all over from the beginning. She wouldn't just start the chapter over. She'd restart.
That's
you know,
wild.
Well, it's, you know, you're not supposed to change his word.
Yeah.
And so she was really into it. And so that's what really got me into really trying to learn the verses, was because I didn't want to put his word out there with a way that it wasn't really meant to be.
Yeah.
You know, so because certain words can change really what the meaning of that sentence is. And so with her doing that, I really got into it back then.
That influenced you a lot,
yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah.
So you're saying you were very actively involved in church from a young age, and then essentially fast forward, you turned 18, you started going to college, started playing rugby a little bit, and that's where the party scene kind of kicked off for you, right? Because I know a little bit about myself. I was kind of raised in a more strict home where we weren't allowed to do a lot of the stuff. And then when I turned 17, it was throw it all out the window, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's just how it went for me. Not saying that's how it went for you.
It pretty much was how it went. You know, I mean, growing up, you know, or going to college, also by another big college town, because I went to school right next to Corvallis, which is where OSU is at.
Okay.
You know, the Beavers, you know, which was 23 miles away, you know, and then also 26 miles the other way, we had, McMinnville, you know what I mean? So there's literally college towns everywhere, and then OSU, they're big, like, party town, you know what I mean? Which was only a few miles away, so... Yeah, I ended up doing quite a bit of partying when I was in college and stuff. But I've got 3.5 years of college under my belt. I'm only 17 credits away from my associates. But I just signed up, like I said, meeting a wife, and I couldn't afford going back to school, and I've thought about it recently. But
Okay. So let's take a quick pause, right? Because thank you for sharing all that about you. And actually, I have a little bit more that I want to continue because there's a few more pieces of that puzzle I think you want to share and I'd like to hear.
yeah,
But for the purpose of the show, I want to ask the question, do you believe, is God real to you? And what's your personal opinion and what's your heart tell you?
I believe that he's real. You know, to the knowledge that I have as of right now. I'm 34 years old. I'm still young in my eyes, you know, so there's still knowledge that I need.
I'm older than you.
Right. Well, I'm doing good then. So, no, there's knowledge, of course, that even if I've read the Bible throughout, you know, pastors and people that go through different Bible schools and different studies have different ways of looking or saying or giving you knowledge. You know what I mean? They have a different way of putting of the way of how the words that are written in that book is what the meaning is. You know, so when it comes to certain things in the Bible that I have questions on, I don't like to just say, oh, well, this person said this, and so that's the way that I'm going to believe, or that's the way that I feel. Mm-hmm. And so throughout my years as I get older, you know, I start seeing people like you know, that have a good understanding, that have that good walk, you know, as of right now in your life, that can say, like, look, you know, this is how I see it, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, shoot, man, for the last 10 years, that's how all these other people have been saying it. So usually that's how I'll set my mind on something. So for me going to church from the age of 3 until I was 18, and I had all these people in that church throughout all them years consistently saying certain things, how am I not to believe it?
Yeah.
So from the age of, you know, 22, when I really started going back to church, until the age of 34, which I still go to church as of today, I do Bible studies every Saturday morning at Pathway. But I'm still growing within that knowledge of understanding of my belief on how real he is. You know what I mean? It's like the Adam and Eve coming from the rib, or, you know, there's just different things, the Goliath and David, and there's certain things, and, you know, that I'm still in question on, you know, but from what I can see, I feel that he's real. You know, there's nothing in my scientific or knowledge or anything that anyone's really told me to prove otherwise. So
Makes sense.
I don't see why. You know, I don't know.
So my question to you would be, and I hear what you're saying, right? There's some things in the Bible that are so out there, it's wild. I mean, we could go into a list of them, and I don't even want to go maybe down that route.
Yeah.
But from your personal experience, you say, yes, I believe in God. I'm still trying to figure out what that looks like. Does that kind of sum it up? Because you've been told different perceptions or different ways from different pastors or people kind of teaching you, and you're just still kind of figuring that out for yourself. Does that kind of...
Well, yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I have that belief that God's real. You know what I mean? No doubt, I have that belief. The belief, though, that there's always still that little doubt, like, what about this, though? You know what I mean? Yeah, this all makes sense, but then there's those few little things. It's just like, man, I don't know. If those things aren't really real, though, then that makes all this could be not real, you know? So it's just, so until I got clarification in my sense from the way that I've structurally done it since I was young, then that's the way I believe, you know what I mean? So I'm not, everybody is right to their own opinion, you know what I mean? So,
No, and I fully agree with you. Is there are some things in there that, like I said, are just out there, right? And now my question to you would be, have you ever had an experience with maybe something that you can't explain? Maybe you felt God's presence or not feeling God's presence. Have you ever had some sort of however you might describe it, have you had something like that happen in your life?
Yeah, I have actually a few times. I was in jail 2 different times for past crimes that I did, for not super bad, no felonies or nothing, but just stuff that I ended up having to deal with and being in jail. My ex-wife's dad passed away. He was murdered. And actually, I got him on my arm. But
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, he is a good man. His name's Tim Thompson. But
You must have really cared for him to
I
put him
did.
on your arm.
I did. He was a good man, and yeah, kind of lost my train there.
Well, you were talking about when you were in jail, and we
Yeah.
were talking about
So-
have you had some experiences?
He is a big believer also.
Okay.
And his dad was one of the last men to pass away that was full Yurok, with Native American, which is from Klamath, California, which is what my kids and wife are. There's Washoe and Yurok. But
Okay.
anyways, yeah, he visited me, but it was with, I don't know, just spiritual, like,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it made me cry. Like, it woke me up. I was fully sweating, and it just, like, I don't know, it was weird. It was crazy. It happened twice, though, and both times it was when I was in jail. And
Can you describe what happened? Were you sleeping? Were you awake?
yeah, I was sleeping.
Were
No,
you...
I was sleeping. But it was, light, like super bright light, and then I could hear her dad's voice. You know what I mean? But the setting that it was in, it just felt heavenly. I don't know how else to put it. It just felt, like when you have that feeling where it's like all that weight's off your shoulders, and you're just like, like for some reason, that's how I felt. But it just like, I just remember bright, but I didn't see nothing. But I just heard her dad's voice, and just be like, it was weird. The story, is he just wanted me to go check net with him, and he didn't want to. He's like, come on, let's go check net. And he's like, I'm like, what do you mean? Like, where's the boat at? He's like, no, we're gonna jump on this log, and I'm like, the paddles and stuff. He's like, no, we're just gonna use the sticks. We're gonna paddle, and I'm barely staying on the log. Can't really get. He's like, no, you just gotta keep. Just have faith. You got it. And it's weird, and so I just keep paddling. I finally get to the net, and I'm trying to pull the net, and I'm freaking barely staying on this log, and I'm pulling up these, salmon, because we're native, so we're allowed to do, net fish and stuff, and so we had set net. Anyway, so I was checking in, and we get all these fish. I'm like, how am I gonna get all these fish back? I'm on this log, and he's like, just have faith. He just kept telling me, he's like, just have faith, you know what I mean? And I don't know, man. It's just, that was like the one, like surreal, like, whoa, like, I don't know. There's more to it, of course, but that was like the gist of, like, just because I was kind of getting in that mood of, I've tried so hard. I've worked my butt off my whole life, and I really tried. You know what I mean? I got into drugs, and I actually, I never went to AA. I was a full-blown alcoholic. I was a full-blown meth addict for 4.5 years straight. I was drinking over a fifth of hard alcohol a day, not beer. I was drinking whiskey, and I quit cold turkey. But
Yeah.
I didn't go to AA. I didn't go to any kind of narcotic meetings, or I didn't go to any kind of church meetings. I didn't do anything. I didn't go to friends' houses or have friends come over to help me. I didn't. And it's weird. It's like a lot of people, they'll go through, I don't know, people that I've been on drugs, no. You know, they'll go through withdrawals, they'll go through shakes, they'll go through all these different, I didn't have none of it, you know, and honestly, it sucks that we didn't work out, but I have my wife and my kids really did. You know, I guess my ex-wife, it's hard to still say it, but my ex-wife and my kids are really what saved me from drugs and alcohol.
They were your reason.
100%. I'm 10 years sober off of it because of them. You know, yeah, I went to jail. I got out and I knew, you know, that either I was gonna lose my kids and my wife at the time, and that wasn't an option for me. I was like, I'd rather have my kids and my wife, so I buckled down and did every job possible that I could do to try to keep my mind busy, and I eliminated all the people that I had in my life that I drank with or I did drugs with, and started going back to church. And it's a struggle though.
Okay.
You know, it's been hard.
Have you ever had anyone that represented a religion or a faith-based thing hurt you in any kind of way? And that could be minor, major, you know, it doesn't have to be some egregious offense.
Yes, not really, I guess. You know, there's a few people that were within a few churches that I've been at that said or have done some things, you know, that weren't holy or weren't right, you know, that, you know, just to bash somebody that wasn't even the right person to bash, you know what I mean, something like that, but not really. You know, I've been to a church, you know, that's kind of have their favorite, you know, it's like, it's kind of weird. It's like they'll pick and choose who can go to their church. It's like, wait a minute, it should be open to everybody, you know. So, you know, I've had that kind of with a pastor before. It's like, you know, so I stopped going to that church. I'm like, if you're not going to allow them to come just because of their pastor, it's like, that's what we're here for, is to come closer to God and know that we're forgiven for all of this bad that he's trying to let go of, that you're not allowing him to do in your church. I don't know. Yeah, so something like that, yeah. It's happened a few times, or a few people within a church. I'm like, well, you know, it's the thing about that though is like, usually I pray for them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't know what they're going through at their house or in their life, you know, so some people act out whether you're really in the wrong or not just because of what they're going through personally, you know, and I've done it myself plenty of times. Yeah. And so as I've got older, I try to think that way. So I just try not to respond. I just be like, hey, you know, hopefully you have a good day, man, and, you know, maybe I'll see you next week at church and you'll be in a little better mood, you know, so.
So it seems like what you're telling me is, yeah, I mean, anywhere you're around a lot of people, you're going to get hurt and some things are going to happen, but there wasn't any big offense where you were, you know, necessarily crazily turned off or you know, but it was more or less just some things happened because you were naturally in these places.
Yeah, personally, no, nothing big like that. Just little things that still is just like, kind of got to let it go and let God do it. You know, he's in the building that it's filled with, you know. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm not really a judgmental person. I live day by day, you know. So whatever happened yesterday, it's like, I got to pick and choose your battles nowadays. You know, I got kids and stuff, you know, so I got to worry more about what they got going on, and then all this little petty things. It's like, they ain't going to change anything, you know, so.
It's valid. Now, you bring up things like I live day by day and I pick and choose my battles. Do those come from things you learned growing up, or these things that you would say you got morals and backgrounds from a certain place? Or where would you say you've kind of pulled those ways that you live from? Has religion had a factor on that? It's kind of an open subject.
Yeah, religion to an extent. You know, I mean, just because having that little religious belief kind of does, I think, help with your morals. and help with your manners and stuff like that. It just being in a church and in that kind of setting, it's already, it's like respectful. You have manners. You're hi, ma'am, this, that, So in that sense, I think so. But I don't know. I think it's the way I observe. I observe a lot of things. Like I'm a contractor for the most part. I just started working for the union, but kind of stopped working for the union for certain reasons. I guess I can mention here when you want me to. I don't know if you want me to mention it now, but
Yeah, I mean, you said you stopped working for the union.
yeah, I got cancer. I got intestine cancer and spread to colon cancer, and they think it spread up to my thyroid. So,
That's intense, buddy. Like,
yeah,
we know each other a little bit outside of this, so I kind of know a little bit about that. But I want you to maybe share how that has, how's that felt for you? I mean, realistically, can you bring us into how you felt about that?
It was hard when I first found out, like 3.5 months ago. It was hard. Every day I'd cry and stuff because they told me if they weren't able to cut it out or get it to stop, that I'd have like 5 years. Survival rate is 5 years. When I had like 71%. Percent. So it's having young kids and stuff. I mean, my son's only 10 years old. And to find out from a doctor that you might only got 5 years is it's hard. I worked out a lot. I ate decent. I was vegan, vegetarian for a while. I don't know. It's hard. It's kind of the reason I think and do the reason why I am the way I am. Things come and go. You never know when they're going to go. So.
It's really tough, buddy.
Yeah.
I know this doesn't make it better, but I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Really.
But it's why it's like I was a fighter. I fought for a lot of years. I started training behind my adopted parents back when I was 17. I went to school with a kid. Her dad was the dojo. He owned his own dojo right at the end of my road that I grew up on. Is called Team Behringer's, and that's how I started training when I was 17. Because I worked All About Stone at Little Caesars and Don's Machine Shop, and so I would tell my adopted parents that I had to work an hour early, and I'd go train for an hour, and I'd leave my gear there, and I'd end up going to my job. And I had my first amateur fight when I was 19. And, I trained a lot of years. I went pro 5 years ago, but I ended up having to give up my fighting because of the cancer. And I was supposed to fight this last month up in Klamath, actually where I met my wife at. And I wasn't able to fight because my thyroid is so enlarged that they didn't think it was safe for me to, that I wouldn't be I'd get too winded. I wouldn't be able to do the fight. And so I've been getting a lot of crap about that, pulling out of that fight, and threats, I'm going to come find you and stuff like that. I told him, I'm like, look, man, my health's more important, but it sucks, it sucks having to pull out of a fight, because I've done it a lot of years of my life. I've done everything from the UFC power slap to slap fight championships to slap wars to MMA fights to bare knuckle fights, and I decided to play in a rugby game. I play for the Reading Loggers rugby. We played our last home game this Saturday, I haven't played rugby in like 14 years. You know what I mean? So I played for 3.5 years. I played for Western Oregon University, Shasta Highlanders, and then the Portland Pigs. But I ended up getting back on the team, had my first practice with them last week, and ended up starting Saturday, played the full game, and, you know, it felt good, you know. I'm starting to give up so much that I really like, you know, and want because of certain medical issues, you know. It's like giving up my job in the union. I was down in LA doing the fire cleanup that just happened, the LA fire. You know, I worked 26 days straight, but I had a bunch of medical doctor appointments coming up, and, you know, so it sucks 'cause I was making good money, you know what I mean? It's something that I really felt that would change mine and my kids', you know, kind of lifestyle a little bit, be able to live a little easier and stuff. And going through what I'm going through, I had to give it up, you know, so now I'm just doing my little handyman stuff here and there to try to keep afloat. And the decisions I've had to make to, you know, I don't know. I just, like, that's kind of how I live day by day.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you got to do the rugby thing. Like you were saying, you've given up a lot, and it seems like that's kind of a spark of something you enjoyed. So I'm happy for you on that. I wanted to know, through this walk of the last couple months of the cancer, like, has your relationship with God gotten closer? Has it gotten further? And I guess I would like to know is, has it helped with you processing this in any way?
I've been kind of standoffish, to be honest with you, with it. I just get in my own little ways, you know what I mean? I go with the flow. I try to set up my days, but it's hard for me to have the motivation. Some days, like, I'll feel fine the day before, and when I go to bed and I'll wake up, I just don't have the motivation or the energy that I usually do, and it's hard to tell people, like, that I'm doing the work for, or you or certain people. It's like, oh, hey, man, I'm just not feeling it today, or because normally I'm just a go, go, go. I'm always working. I've always done it, you know, but my body is just, you know, it's not like it used to be. You know, like with having the enlarged thyroid, that makes your body heat up even more. Okay, well, with the heat already starting to come, I can barely be doing anything, and my body is just extremely hot. You know what I mean? So, shorter breath all of a sudden, which I've never been shorter breath, you know, which was crazy. Saturday, I was able to play all 80 minutes, and I did just fine.
That's good.
But then, you know, the few days prior to that, you know, I was trying to do some work, and it wasn't even that hard of work, and it was like dying. I was like, so I don't know, it's weird. I don't know.
Well, I would imagine it's, you know, a two-part system. It's the physical part, like you were talking about, the hormones probably, because I think thyroid regulates a lot of those. The heat thing that you were talking about, overall just health in general, right? But then there's the other emotional and mental aspect of it is, dude, you're dealing with the hardest shit ever, right? Like, let's just be honest, like that, you know, your doctor said, if we can't treat this, you might die in 5 years, dude. Like that's intense, you know. And
I turned down chemo also. I've seen people and been in the presence of someone that's had to go through chemo. So I don't want to do it. You know, my adopted mom had breast cancer actually growing up.
That's understandable, buddy. It's truly real, you know.
Yeah. Hard some days.
Go ahead.
It's just, I was just saying, it's just hard some days. You know, it's just, I try some days, you know what I mean? I'll force myself. You know what I mean? I'll still do things, and it's like power through it. But some days it's just, don't have the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, I want to ask you, do you have any final thoughts for our viewers? We have people from all different cultures, all different societies, all different beliefs. Some believe in God, some don't believe in God. if you want to sum up something or anything you want to share with them, please let us know.
I say, as a parent, it's good to have some type of belief. Not only does it help with structure, it helps with teaching your kids manners. It helps teaching your kids a different way to look at life, you know. And if you believe different, you believe different, you know. In our sense of being a Christian, you know, no one's perfect. Everyone is their own person, and I feel that, you know, let them pray to who they pray to. You know what I mean? You pray to who you pray to. It's really not messing with your life or really getting into your everyday lifestyle. Don't let it bother you, because honestly, it's just another thing to worry about that doesn't need to be there. You know, spend the time with your kids and the time you have on the earth to do. You know what I mean? Instead of worrying about what religion somebody believes in.
Yeah. So respect, honor others. If they're not infringing on you, don't go infringing on them.
No point in it. You know, I guess unless you want to be a bully.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. You know, don't judge them. You know, let them be their person. You know, you can give them a pointer or two if you feel the need. You know, give them a different way to look at something if that's what you want to do. But don't sit there and down talk somebody just because they don't agree with you.
Well, Anthony, I thank you for being on the show. I thank you for being vulnerable and sharing everything that you did, dude. It really means a lot to me, and I hope it does to the people watching. And with that, we'll go ahead and end if you're okay with that.
Yeah, definitely, man.
All right.
Appreciate you having me.
Definitely. So, you're the man, Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. And whether you believe in God, whether you don't believe in God, whether you believe in Christianity, Buddhism, or any other religion, I hope we offered something to benefit you, a perspective of you, something that you can take home and make your own. Thanks for watching, and can't wait to see you next time. Feel free to subscribe and like, and I hope you have a great day.